Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries RPG podcast. This episode is going out on Monday, so I hope you're all having a great start to your week. With the current global situation, many people are turning to online gaming to get their RPG fix nowadays. This has seen a rise in the use of virtual tabletops and also conventions taking place online. Today we're joined by a special guest, Mark Palmer, who is going to talk about the Albacon Charity RPG Con. Okay, so we're joined by Mark Palmer today here on the Red Dice Diaries RPG podcast. Thank you very much for joining us today, Mark.
Thanks very much for having me, John.
Oh, no problem at all. So you reached out to us on Twitter and you wanted to talk about Albacon, which I know you're involved with running.
Yeah, I did, yeah, and you very kindly invited me on the show. Yeah, Albacon is a convention that we're running. It's an online virtual convention.
Yeah.
And it's taking place on the 3rd and 4th of October. And the idea kind of originated in Scotland because a group of us who know each other through Tabletop Scotland decided that we kind of wanted to run a convention to raise some money for charity. But essentially the convention is, we've created time slots and the aim is that the convention is essentially, is as international as it can possibly be. We have time slots that run right through the night in UK time, but line up very nicely for kind of the evening in the US. So the idea being that we can almost play kind of right round the clock, essentially.
Well, that's one of the advantages of the virtual format, isn't it? That you can get people jump on at times that are convenient for them, and it's easy for people who aren't in the same location to get involved. Yeah,
and that was kind of this whole idea kind of came about with it was a long story actually, because it started in 2016. My then 8-year-old son was diagnosed with leukemia.
Okay.
And he's now 12 and he's now doing fine. But it's a long period of treatment, and in amongst that, throughout that process, you encounter a number of different charities who are really, really good to you. One of them is It's Good to Give, who are this year's partner charity. And they do a lot of practical help for kind of kids with cancer on the ward, on the hospital wards. But they also have an amazing purpose-built retreat on the shores of Loch Venica. And so what we wanted to do is with Tabletop Scotland and UK Games Expo being cancelled.
Yeah.
Myself and David Wright, who's one of the organisers of Tabletop Scotland, we kind of got together and we thought, why can't we do an online virtual convention, and why can't we do it for charity? So we identified It's Good to Give as a charity, and that's kind of what brought us to this point. So it's a few months away. We're kind of trying to do promotion work to make sure that people know about it, and we've also been working to get sponsors online. So we've got a lot of fairly big name sponsors. We've got Chaosium are involved, Sirenscape, Pelgrane Press, and there are a few kind of independent games or companies and essentially accessory makers as well, like Handiwork Games and various kind of like smaller enterprises. So that's kind of where we are at the moment, and you've very kindly invited me on to kind of talk about it.
Oh, no problem at all. I mean, I do a lot of my sort of gaming online myself personally, and have done for a long time. But obviously with the current sort of global situation, a lot of people who are into RPGing, even if they've not used virtual tabletops before, are sort of turning to online gaming. And as you've said, a lot of the sort of in-person conventions have unfortunately had to be cancelled, which is obviously the right thing to do for safety measures, etc. But I'm hoping that this will lead to a lot more people discovering that they can actually game online. And obviously conventions like the one that you guys are running is like a big part of getting people involved in that sort of idea and seeing that it's not a sort of scary thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I've played online. As I mentioned, my son was very sick from about 2016 onwards.
Yeah.
So kind of going out and playing in physical spaces was kind of difficult because I could have to leave in the middle of you may suddenly take ill and have to go to hospital. So being in a physical space wasn't really helpful for us as a family. So I played online, despite the fact that a lot of the people that I played with were local, and we've kind of continued online because it works.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, when coronavirus really hit and everybody started playing online, there were a lot of people. You could see a lot of people on various Facebook groups who just didn't know where to start with it.
Yes.
And I think as time has passed, that's got easier, and more people are doing it. And more to the point, some of the virtual tabletops have scaled their servers up so they can actually cope with the demand, which is kind of good. We wanted Albacon to be this online convention because Tabletop Scotland is very much a convention that takes place in a physical space.
Yes.
It's hugely successful, and it's also part of it is a large part of Tabletop Scotland is kind of the wider tabletop hobby, which is kind of board gaming and so on. So we didn't want to confuse ourselves with that. For instance, providing board gaming facilities in a virtual space is a wee bit more complicated. So we kept it to exclusively RPGs because that's something that we're all a big fan of. I'm a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan, and Dungeon Crawl Classics, all those kind of things. And we want to kind of bring people from around the world together, really.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because you mentioned D&D. Obviously, in preparation for this, I was reading your bio on the Albacon website, which is albacon.co.uk. So for anyone who's listening, go and check that out. And in your bio, it said that you took like quite a lengthy hiatus from the hobby, and you sort of came back in 2016 when you discovered
I
fifth
did,
edition.
yeah. It's all back in the mist of time now, but I know that I've found kind of bits of paper and scraps and notes that I reckon I could date to about 1994, and I think that's roughly when I got into D&D in about 1982 when somebody handed me the Moldvay box set. It was a friend of my dad's, so it didn't stick with him when he bought it, and he gave it to me, and it kind of it lit this fire under me. And through that, I played mostly basic and expert D&D up until about 1994, and then I kind of just drifted away. You know, you get a job, you move in with mates and flats, you go drinking, that kind of stuff. And then in 2016, it was just like I kind of went down that road that everybody usually probably go down. I'll just buy this set for the kids, and I bought the starter set, and it was like, yeah, that's not enough. I'm going to have to buy more of this stuff. And I got into fifth edition, and I love fifth edition. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic edition. It's kind of, and for the older guys like myself, it's very reminiscent of that kind of early gaming experience as well. It has that running right through it, and then I've kind of got back into it with a vengeance since then. So I play a bit of Dungeon Crawl Classics, about 13th Age. There's a fair few games, but predominantly in the fantasy space. But yeah, Dungeons and Dragons was obviously my first love and still my biggest gaming love, I guess.
Yes, I mean, it's a familiar story to me because I had a fairly lengthy hiatus from the hobby myself due to health reasons, because I was like diagnosed with epilepsy, so I wasn't able to drive or anything like that, so I found it difficult to travel to games, and I pretty much stopped playing until I sort of got involved in like reading a few things about RPGs online, and someone said to me, "Oh, look, we're running a game online. Do you fancy getting involved?" And that sort of led to me like discovering like virtual tabletops, and then, as you were saying, you know, throwing myself back into the hobby and really getting involved in it. And that's why I think conventions like Albacon are a great thing, because it's sort of reaching out to people who might have heard a little bit about online gaming, but they don't really know a great deal about it. So if someone's listening to this and they want to get involved in Albacon, either as a player or as a GM, what should they be doing?
Well, so the first thing to do is to visit the website, which is albacon.co.uk. So albacon.co.uk, Alba being Gaelic for Scotland, and but it's not exclusively a Scottish event. If not, it's for everyone. From the website, you can sign up to run a game. So we don't have any players sign up at the moment, because that'll come a wee bit further down the line. We don't actually know the pricing at the moment, but the idea will be, because it's for charity, the pricing will be per game. So the GM won't pay, but if you come in as a player, then you will pay per game, per table. That's kind of how it will work.
And then that money's all going to the charity afterwards.
Everything is going to It's Good to Give. So there are very little costs in running this kind of convention. So pretty much all of the money will go to It's Good to Give.
I was going to say, I suppose that's like a big advantage, because if you were running an in-person convention, donating money to charity, obviously you've got to cover like your rental of the space that you're having the game in. You've got to rent your tables, stuff like that. You've got to have people who are volunteers or whatever sort of there running it. And I know obviously you guys have got volunteers involved in running it online, but I'm assuming, like you say, the sort of capital outlay is much less.
Yeah, there's no capital outlay really. Sticking up a website really is all the capital outlay that's involved. The other good thing about running online is that it's very scalable. So if we get more demand than we're anticipating, then that scales very easily, because we don't. If you were in a physical space, you would have a limit on how many people could play. Whereas we don't have that limit; it'll just scale up, and it should be seamless.
Yeah, and I suppose with the online gaming, like say if you're running an in-person game, you've got a set space. You know, you can have X amount of tables and X games in it. But as you say, because it's online, the only limit you've got in terms of games is how many GMs sign up to run games.
That's entirely it. Which is why we're really actively encouraging GMs to sign up at this point, because the more GMs we can get signed up early on, the more we kind of know what we're working with, and that's really useful.
And I can see, I'm looking at your sort of GM sign-up screen now, and that all looks really nice and simple to use. You know, you fill in what system you want to run, what your name and your email address is, what your maximum number of players is. I like the fact you've got like little sort of content tags that you can tick. So because obviously we know there's been a big push to ensure that there's sort of content management and like safety tools in place in RPGs, and quite rightly so recently. So it's nice to see you've got these these content tags. So if you're going to have like themes of horror or potentially adult themes, you can tick that, and the players can make an informed choice about what game they want to get involved in.
And we insist on safety tools as part of what we're doing at Albacon. So X-card is a minimum, but if the GM wants to bring in something that's kind of stronger than that, more detailed than that, then we would support the GM all the way and bringing that in.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great thing to see, because obviously, as you were saying, although it's a sort of Scottish run con, you want to make it as accessible and as available to as many people
and
as possible.
As inclusive as possible. Yeah, is really
of course.
what we're looking to do. That's the beauty of these conventions. You can come along and you could be playing with anybody, and that's great. It's such a great thing to meet people from different walks of life and to kind of share that experience of playing a game with them. So I as part of my inverted commas user research for this, I've been taking part in a few online conventions. So, and one of the great things about all these physical conventions going online is that, there's things like GaryCon that I could never have really physically gone in. It's just too far away. I managed to play in GaryCon. I played in DCC Days Online last night. I ran a session there, and there are various kind of UK Games Expos going online. So I'll be doing a fair bit of research on what works and what doesn't work in that virtual space for a convention.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And like you say, one of the great things about these is you can game with people from other walks of life, and you can sort of expand your pool of acquaintances and people that you can game with. I certainly know for myself, since starting to game mainly online, I game with people in different countries, different continents around the world now. People who, without the sort of fabulous technology that enables us to do this, I would never have even had a chance to meet.
In my weekly game, we have one guy in Michigan and another in just outside San Francisco. So while the rest of us are in Scotland, there are two that are right on the other side of the world, and it just works, and we form great friendships.
Yes, it's likewise myself. I'm running a Vampire 5th Edition game at the minute, like myself and two players, and obviously I'm here in England. We've got another player in Finland and another player in New Zealand, and I would have never even had a chance to meet those people, never mind form friendships with them and game with them.
Absolutely. I'd say the guy, the player in New Zealand, makes your scheduling kind of challenging.
Yeah, he is a trooper, bless him. He gets up like very early
in the morning or something.
Yeah.
I used to play with a guy in Australia that did the same. He used to get up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning, God bless him.
Yeah, we've had quite a few games where we've been sort of like, it's like 12 o'clock, like midnight here, and we're like, I really should be going to bed. And he's like, I should get up and like start doing some stuff in a minute.
Yeah, start doing it. Yeah.
So it's a bit challenging. I used to game with a lot of people in America, and I can't sort of handle the early mornings now so much. But I used to be up until sort of like 3-4 in the morning because of the time differences. So there are still challenges online. But to bring it back to Albacon, one of the things I like here is you've got the GMs, when they submit their game, they can pick different slots. So obviously you can jump on it as a player, look for slots that are going to suit your time schedule, and then sort of use that to inform what games you want to get involved in.
I'm sure there are a few people in the UK who have visited the site who their eyebrows were raised at the 0100 to 0500 slot. But the understanding is that I think if you're looking at the east coast of America, I think that's 8 p.m. till midnight or something like that. So it's not that crazy a slot, but I guess it seems mad if you're sitting here in the UK and you're looking at that slot and thinking, who wants the game at that time?
Yeah, I definitely need a strong cup of coffee if I was going to be gaming at that time.
You need a lot of coffee, but that's UK gamers who are insomniacs. Feel free to sign up for that slot, but it's kind of predominantly aimed at people in other time zones, because not only is it kind of evening in America, but I think when we did the calculations, it works out in the sort of Australia, New Zealand, that works out kind of mid-morning, so it was kind of good for that as well. So we're kind of trying to get that global reach, basically.
Yeah, and as you were saying earlier, I know a lot of online conventions that are sort of primarily online will run for essentially a 24-hour period, as you were saying, but obviously it's almost like a sort of relay race with different people coming in and sort of different people going out related to their own sort of schedules and their own time zones.
So kind of how this came about initially was because back in 2018 there were 7 of us. We did to raise money for the sick kids in Edinburgh, sick kids hospital in Edinburgh. They have a thing called Save Point where you play for 24 hours. Yeah. And we raised like £4,000 or something just by playing 24 hours. And I think we came out of it thinking we'd love to do that again, but there was not a single one of us put our hand up to the idea of playing for 24 hours solid again.
Yeah.
If you've ever played that role playing games for 24 hours solid, you walk out of that room at the end of it thinking, I never want to pick up another role playing game again.
It reminds me very much like if you sit down and you watch like all the Lord of the Rings films, you sort of walk out and you're in a bit of a daze. You're like, I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, that let's just say that the 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. slot was a tough one.
Yeah, I can imagine. Congratulations on raising that amount of money.
And that's kind of what brought me to this point. I've been nagging Dave Wright from Tabletop Scotland for a wee while now, and eventually he bit, and I was like, right, okay, let's see what we can do. And Dave has a lot of contacts, a lot of experience because he's organised a physical convention. So I think that we're going to make a huge success of it, and by making a huge success of it, we're going to raise a lot of money for, hopefully raise a lot of money for It's Good to Give, who for my family they've been a lifesaver. They really kind of lit up our world in a really dark time. So I'll be forever grateful to them. So whatever I can do to raise money for a fantastic charity, then that's what I want to do.
And I think it's nice as well because obviously there's a lot of sort of, let's say, darkness around at the minute in terms of things that are going on. So it's really nice, especially through RPGs, but just in general, it's really nice to see someone taking action and doing something that's got a more positive vein to it, and, trying to help people out. So that's really great to see. And I encourage anyone who's listening to go along to albacon.co.uk, get involved, have a look at that. I'm certainly going to be looking to sign up to GM a game for Albacon. So anyone who's listening to this, go and have a look along. Obviously, as you say, the player slots aren't open yet, but presumably they'll be open.
We're still looking to kind of come to an agreement on kind of when we're going to open those slots. Obviously, we want to get the GMs on board first, and then we'll make an announcement as to when we're opening those player slots. Because October's still a few months away, so we've got a wee bit of time to pick up some GMs and then get players in that space. Just in the run up to going to the date of the event. So the date of the event is the 3rd and 4th of October. So we've got, I think 112 or 113 days from now until then, from the point where we're recording this anyway.
Okay, and this episode should be going out on Monday, so tomorrow as we're recording it.
Okay.
So hopefully that'll give people plenty of time to listen to it. Hopefully drum up some more support for it, for a very good cause, as you say.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so Mark, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to say in closing about Albacon?
I just want to encourage people to sign up. Not only are we going to have gaming slots, but we're looking to run a parallel track as well with seminars and various kind of workshops and so on. So we've got a few people in the industry on board who are going to take part in those kind of seminars. We've got people from Pelgrane Press. We're talking to Daniel Bishop, who writes a lot of Dungeon Crawl Classics videos. He's been very, very kind to us and given us his time. So we'll make more announcements about that as we kind of firm up that. But there will be 2 tracks, a gaming track and a kind of seminar video content track.
And obviously, I know that there's an Albacon RPG Twitter account that's putting out news about the latest goings on. Obviously, you've got the website albacon.co.uk.
Yeah, there's a Facebook page as well. You can find links to all those things from the actual website.
Yeah.
So the Twitter link, the Facebook link. So sign up follow us on Twitter, sign up to the Facebook group, and you'll find us a friendly bunch and willing to kind of have a chat with you about things. If you've got any questions about whether what you need to do to become a GM, any questions about the process, then just reach out to us and we'll be happy to kind of explain how it works and see if we can help you.
Okay. So again, Mark, thank you very much for joining us today. If you're interested in getting involved in Albacon, and I heartily encourage you to go and have a look at it, you can check out albacon.co.uk, and as Mark was saying, there are links on there to the Twitter, Facebook and social media of the convention, and all the news about that as it's updated will be placed on those. So have a look, get involved. It's for a very worthy cause. Thank you very much again for joining us, Mark.
Thank you very much for having me, John. Much appreciated.
No problem at all.